guys, so today I thought I'd do another doll's house crafting video. I'm not at home, so I kind of have a limited range of crafting supplies to use. So I thought the easiest, like, mess-free thing I could make would be some little rugs to kind of go in my doll's house. Now I did recently bulk buy loads of stuff from a charity shop, and it did have some really large rugs, like very big. They'd probably take up the whole floor of my doll's house, so I'm not sure if I'll be using those or if I'll be selling them. One of them is red and black, so that will work quite nicely. The others are like yellows and blues, and the colour scheme just doesn't really work. So I may be selling those ones on, but I thought I'd have a go at making some rugs before I do that, just in case they're impossible to make. So first off, I made this. Now I'm actually going to use this as like a blanket on one of the beds. I bought some wool from Poundland. It's 3 rolls for £2. Did this by weaving the wool. I just used a, like, it was a bit of leftover card from a cat food box. But this I originally wanted to be a rug. As you can see, it's kind of got the tassels at the end, which some rugs do have. But I think it looks a bit more like a blanket just because it is made out of that wool effect. So I think this will look quite good, like, maybe on the sofa, like folded up, or on a bed or something. So I have got that. So that was the first thing which I attempted to make. It was really simple to do, so if you guys would like a tutorial video on how to make a little blanket like this, or you could even make a really long one and make it into like a little scarf or something, yeah, that was just my first attempt at a rug. I thought I'd have a go at that first off camera just in case it didn't work, but it came out really cool. It just didn't really come out like a rug. So I think what I will be doing is cross-stitching a rug. So I found this. As I said, I have very limited supplies with me. At home I have kind of Ada, which is the kind of fabric you cross stitch onto. I have it in like every single colour, but this is the kind of only one I could find sort of off the bat. It is this kind of pinky colour, which isn't that ideal, but I'm hoping once I've started like stitching on top it will look a little bit better. And then I've also got my needles with me, just so I can cross stitch it. And then I've got this, which is just I have lots of different things full of floss, which is this like kind of string that you cross stitch with, but this one is the easiest one just to throw in a bag and bring along with me, just because it's all there. But as you can see, I have got like some other like orangey colours and stuff over here. So I thought I'd just use these. They are fully numbered and stuff, so you can follow patterns, but I'm not going to be too strict about patterns. So I've done a lot of cross-stitching in the past. I went through a little phase of my life where all the crafting I did was cross-stitching, but I'm the kind of person who loves to delve into a craft, buy all of the supplies, then move on to something else quite quickly because I want to know how to do all of the crafts. So I kind of know how to do a lot of things. I'm not an expert on all of them. It's just I like to give everything a go. I just like to try new things. So these are the kind of flosses I'll be using. You can buy these kind of things off eBay. There's loads of them in charity shops, any like craft stores and things like that. You can pick up this kind of floss. I think I got about I think it was like 20 lots of this, black, I think for a couple of pounds just off of eBay, so it's really easy to do. Now you can buy patterns. I have made cross-stitch videos in the past, but they've not been anything to do with my doll's house. So you can buy patterns if you did want to just do a cross-stitch for you to put on the wall, or as a gift, or to make into a cushion. And of course that also applies to, you can buy cross-stitch patterns to go into a doll's house. Now what I normally do is search on eBay and on Etsy and see if anyone has any patterns. So for this example, you could search like cross-stitch rug patterns, for example, and then buy a pattern. But I kind of want to make up my own pattern for this. If you do go on Pinterest or something, you can find very simple patterns like this. So I think this is what I'm going to work off of. as you can see, it is super simple. This was just a free download. I think this is so simple that they were like, we can't charge people for this. So there's like 4 pumpkins in a row. I kind of feel like this is the kind of shape that I want it to be in. So you got a small pumpkin, a bigger one, and then medium ones. Obviously I'm going to adapt it, but I also did find this, which I thought would be quite cute as like another option. Then I did also save this picture because this has a kind of like a leaf kind of effect around it, and I think this was originally from some kind of rug pattern. So I wouldn't normally recommend saving, or some people see it more as like stealing patterns off of Pinterest, but personally, like, I feel if it's something super simple like this, which I'm pretty sure I could have thought up anyway if I was to try and sit down and design it, I don't feel so worried about this. It doesn't have any companies or names or shops attached to it. It was just a plain old image. So I will be using this as my reference, but I am going to change it slightly. I think I'm going to change these lines here. I may add some lines in this, and also with a pattern you buy, it normally tells you what colors to use, but I'm just going to be making up as I go along. So I'm going to see if I can use like different shades of orange and create like some different effects. So that's hopefully how it's going to end up. I'm going to do the pumpkins and see how it looks. I may then add some bats. I'm just going to see how it goes. It's going to be very freestyle, very chill, very calm. So what some people do when they're doing cross stitch is they work out the patterns. So for example, this pattern is like 14 squares tall and 35 squares long. So some people do measure that out first before they do it, but what I'll probably do is just cut out a square, whichever square is the least crumpled, so probably this square over here, and then I'm just going to start in the middle. This is not the best way of doing it. If you have a limited amount of Aida or cross stitching linen, you're going to want to like measure it out and make sure you're not using too much. But back when I did loads of cross stitch, I bought a massive box. I've probably got around over 500 sheets of this, and I really don't cross stitch very often, so I'm not trying to be too resourceful here. I'm just using it up since I have it sitting around. So I think I'm going to base it on here, and I literally am going to go straight for putting these pumpkins right in the middle, and then from that I can see what size they are. I can see if I need to add anything around the outside. I like to do a border and things, so I'm going to go get my scissors and cut out a little square, and then I'm going to begin doing the pumpkins in the middle and work outwards. Again, they're not going to end up this size because this is like a blown up version, so they may end up being so tiny that I'd want to put some more. I may end up making them into a border even, so we'll just see what happens. I probably won't film the whole process of cross stitching because cross stitching is a very long process. It would probably take maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours, depending. It's been quite a while since I've done it, depending on how rusty I am, to do just these 4 pumpkins. I don't think I'll be able to film the whole thing, but of course I will give you updates throughout the process. So I've done the second pumpkin now. I use this almost like goldy kind of colour, but I feel like it went quite well with the orange. I feel like it's a relatively realistic pumpkin colour. I think next up I'll use this slightly lighter orange. I did change the design slightly. I did round off the edges and also round off the stalk to give it a little bit more of like a circular look rather than kind of a pixelated pumpkin. And now I've added the third one. I'm really liking the difference in these colours. I think they all kind of look orange, but there's like a good subtle difference. So I'm not sure whether or not I should go for like a more yellowy tone on the end, or if I should just go in with another orange, although these oranges are super similar. Yeah, I think they're pretty much the same. So I may go in for like a yellowy one on the end. This one literally took me 2 seconds just because it is so tiny. But I think once that goes on and I've put like a border on, it's probably going to be about the right size for a rug. I can't decide whether or not to add bats, so once I finish I think I'm going to do like a black box around it, and then I'll decide if I should add anything more on the inside or if I should just work on the border. Okay, so I've got these 4 pumpkins now. As you can see, they're all slightly different shades of these kind of orangey kind of colours. This one's a little bit more yellow. Basically, I used this pattern which I found. I did modify it slightly, just changed it up a little bit, changed the lines. I gave lines to this one, just made them look a bit more rounded. So this is probably about maybe 5 centimetres in length, maybe slightly longer, maybe 6 centimetres. If you put this into proportion of the actual doll's house, I don't want it to be too big, so I think I'm going to add a black square box around the outside. Then I can work outwards until it's kind of at a desirable length. I did think maybe I could fit in little bats here, but I think it may be a little bit too cramped, so I'm going to see if I can add anything kind of autumnal or spooky into the actual border itself. So this is what it looks like with the black border on. I definitely don't think it's large enough on its own. This is probably about the size of what you would imagine a welcome mat to be, like in perspective to the doll's house. So it does need to be a little bit bigger. I don't think this is going to be one of those rugs that kind of takes up a whole room. I kind of want it more to be like a little rug that goes under a table or like next to something or in like a little gap, almost like what you'd have in a hallway. Not that the doll's house has hallways, but somewhere small. So I think I'm doing like a little bat here and then maybe like some twirls, and doing the same on the top, but I don't want it to take up too much space. So I'm just gonna see what it looks like. If worse fails, I can just unpick it. I have been looking online for ideas and I did find this like little bat in a swirl kind of sort of thing. I'm not sure if that'll be a little bit too big. So the other idea I thought of maybe was putting like some candy corns, but the thing is these aren't exactly like jack-o'-lanterns, these are just some pumpkins. So I kind of want it to be autumny and spooky, and I just don't feel like candy corns are going to go that well with this one. I feel like if these are little jack-o'-lanterns, it would be slightly different with the candy corns, but I feel like this needs to stay very kind of autumnal and like simple. So the other thing I could do is autumn leaves around the outside. So now that I think of it, maybe I'll do a bat there, and then some autumn leaves. I'll have a look. Okay, so basically I've done a bat. I did look up some pattern ideas, but basically in the end I just freestyled it because I couldn't find one that was sort of to this scale. So I think I'm going to put one upside down here and then like other ones on the end. Basically, well, I know I want to put them in the corners. Like I may put just like 2 there in the corners and then 1 upside down there. But basically I want it to look like all of the bat's ears are like closest to the line, because I was looking at actual rugs and they're kind of symmetrical like from all angles. So like if you look at it from this way, it would look the same from that way, and so you can have it like either way around and the pattern will be the same. Obviously this is slightly different because I've done the pumpkins this way around, so it kind of has to go this way, but I thought at least if I make the border that kind of symmetrical, I think is the right word, but like that pattern that goes all the way around, then it will look good from all angles. And then obviously the pumpkins will have to go a certain way, but it will still sort of fit in. So if I put it sideways, it will still be obvious what the picture is of. So I'm just literally freestyling at the moment. But I think what I'd probably do is add these bats in and then probably put another black line, maybe like a double black line. And I'd like to add some more orange or something into it, but I'm not too sure how I do that. So maybe like orange stripes or something. But yeah, I'm pleased with this bat. It took me a little while just because I was freestyling. So I'm going to see if I can like freestyle one on this corner. And then once I've kind of got the design down, I can just sort of copy it. So this, I'll just be like reflecting up to there. So hopefully it'll go okay. So I'm just unpicking the corner bat because it went so wrong. Yeah, don't think it's gonna work like as I wanted it to, just because of the way I've laid it out. Like I've left a line of like a line of clear dots in between everything. I just think it looks nicer when it's a bit more spaced out. It kind of means I can't do this corner bat thing because, God, what a mess. Because the ears just are too far out. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to see if I can fit these bats on the sides and put one there, and then maybe I can make like some kind of a swirl or something to go in that gap. So it's not going to be exactly how I want it to be, because I did want it to be kind of more symmetrical, but I think it will still look somewhat sort of repeated if I have 4 bats. So it's the next day. This is where I left it last night. Basically, I just finished off this border and it was getting quite late, so I decided to call it a day, just because when I get tired I start making mistakes. But this kind of came out unexpectedly good. I did just kind of freestyle it. I was just kind of making swirls and seeing what would happen, and then I kind of mirrored it down there, and it all fitted in really nicely. I'm really glad that I was able to actually work out where the middle of this was, because I was slightly worried that they'd be slightly like a square off, but it was fine. I kind of folded it and guessed and somehow it worked out. So yeah, I freestyled this bit, and I've made this border. So now what I'm going to do is put another black line around here. It's starting to get to about the right size now, I'd say, for a rug. So I'm going to add, what I think I'll do is I'll add a black border, and then I'll add some like orange squares around, and then another black border, and then it'll be finished off. I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to finish this so that it doesn't start fraying everywhere. So I need to have a think about that, and work out the best way. Usually I would use a sewing machine, but as I said, I'm not at home, so I'm kind of just working with what I've got. And I would like to see if I can work out how to make tassels, but again, it's completely dependent on what I have here. So we'll just see how that goes. So I've done this black border around the outside. I think I'm pretty much there now. So I wanted to add some orange into this. I was gonna put like another kind of border of maybe like orange and black squares, and then another black border, but to be quite honest, this outside black border has literally taken me hours to do, and it hasn't really added that much to the design other than a border. So I think I'm just going to put orange on the outside, and plus I don't want it to get too like thick. I think I'd rather it be longer than thicker, if that makes any sense. So I'm going to put like orange and black. Should I put squares? I think I may just put orange squares, like one orange, one white, one orange, one white, and then outline them in black and then put another black line and do the same on the other side as well. The cross stitch bit, I'm using my phone as a torch just because it's got quite dark, but I'm really pleased with the effect. I decided just to do the orange and the black down these sides. I didn't want to make it much thicker, but I did kind of make it a little bit longer, so I think it's got a really nice finished effect. Now I want to make some tassels kind of on the edges, so I've been thinking how to do this. And then I noticed that the edge had kind of frayed here and it looked a little bit like a tassel. So I figured I was going to sew it with a sewing machine to stop it from fraying, but I think the fraying is going to make it look more like it has tassels. So I'm going to cut relatively close to the edges and then I'm going to fray it. I need to be really careful not to fray it down too far, otherwise all the stitching will come out. Ideally I would have gone around with like a sewing machine just to like hold it all together, but as I said, I'm not at home, so I don't have all of my regular supplies. So I'm going to cut it now and then I'm just going to pull the edges away slightly. So if you carefully pull this bit away, it comes apart and it leaves this kind of frayed look. So I'm going to cut really carefully, probably around maybe half an inch around the outside of this, and then I'm going to fray it and hopefully it'll end up looking like a rug. So basically that worked quite well. I'm really pleased with how it turned out. I just left sort of one line as such around the outside just to make sure that the actual stitching didn't fray out, but I'm really pleased with the effect which it had. As you can see, the back is quite messy, so I may at a later stage just put a bit of like felt, cut it down to size and just cover that up, but obviously once it's on the floor you're not going to see it. The only bit which I just need to sort out is this corner, just because it's obviously overhanging, but I'm just going to cut that. And then I think hopefully this will be done. Just as like a time idea, this is taking me kind of 2 evenings to do, so it does take a little while, but there you go, there is the finished rug. I think this is going to go really nicely in the house. I'm pleased with the colour choices. I feel like the border worked really well, and just generally I'm very pleased with how it turned out. So I think my next doll's house video will probably be a haul, just because I've got lots of new pieces to go in there. So basically I do a general update and hopefully you'll be able to see this little rug in one of the rooms. So thank you very much for watching. If you do have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. If it's sunny where you are, I hope you're enjoying the shade, and I'll see you next time. Bye!